through this when in my early monastic years, where it felt like a tiger always chasing me. And sometimes in my dreams, I would be repetitive dream of a tiger chasing me. And one time, and I would always, wake up, panic after flopping, like I couldn't run fast enough, I'd finally collapse, and then the tiger was ready to, tear me to shreds. Then I'd wake up and I'd be in like that, thank goodness it's only a dream, but the next night would be the same. And then just recurred time and time again, until finally in my dream I was so exhausted that I stopped short. I turned around with the intention, as I was turning, I said, okay, do it, get it over with. And guess what? There was nothing there. There was nothing there. And it was only after the fact that I realized that the prioress, who was a founderess, but also she was my spiritual mother, she, the true spiritual mother and father, if there are such things today, and we all have the spiritual accompaniment to some degree with one another, is she was curtailing a certain impulse that I had. She said to me, because we would have group meetings now and again, and she would say afterwards to me, you always come across as like a journalist. You know everything. And like you're the one that you question to bring out, as though you're like a facilitator of the group. So you have a very strong persona there of self-importance. I do. And so I was like, the time and time again she pointed out, now you see, when you did this, when you said that wasn't really appropriate. You're not really yourself. That's not you. And so it was during that time that I felt as though I was walking on thin ice all the time. That, not even knowing what that was, because I was so glued to that identity, that when finally I began to get some inkling of it, a lot of anger came up towards her. I felt such anger towards her. It was like, where is this all coming from? And it was a desire to flee, to leave the monastery, to go back anywhere, but this, I can't stand this anymore, type of thing. But, there's tools in monastic life, or in all spiritual life, where you just don't give up because something is hard. Because I could remember, too, what some of the grace-filled moments were like. So I decided, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stay put, not run away, because I can see many areas of my life where I would run away, not face it. And so it was through the dream that I became aware of what was really going on. And when that finally there was nothing there, was when I felt free from this need to pontificate over people, in a group where people are just everybody is being part of the group. I wasn't assigned to talk or to give people instructions about things, to take on responsibilities that weren't mine. Well, where did I get? Later I could see where it came from. My military father. And I was the oldest girl. And I was brought in when parties were there, and I had to show off to be the highly educated and mature, and how proud he would be. So that was we need to lovingly accept that the process is going to bring on some disagreeable feelings. However, there are going to be also moments of deep peace suddenly. And we love it when it happens. We must be careful, though, the next time we meditate, that we don't say, I want to go there. Yes, of course we do. But we need to be also aware that whatever is what needs to happen. But the big problem, though, is we do not want to entertain, invite these thoughts in and start picking them apart and seeing associations when we're meditating. There's a time to do this afterwards, journaling, which I would highly encourage you to do, is to journal about what you've experienced today. And then when you meditate in the future, to do that also is to take the time afterwards, at least to jot down, maybe you don't have much time, to jot down the 5 most occurring thoughts or feelings. Remember, it's about awareness. Awareness, because we're not doing a theme paper or a doctrine on it. We're striving to allow ourselves to unfold, to go beyond our things that we just blocked out. There's a lot of energy there. You know that icon of St. George? It's wonderful. The one that Loughborough one, the one that doesn't have the fiery dragon, but the dragon that is looking at George's eyes, they're looking at each other. It's the 14th century Loughborough one, 14-something or other. And the red background, the hand of Christ coming from the ark, the black cave, and the ups and downs of the dragon. And the way George is looking at the dragon, and they're looking at each other. And then there's the staff, thin staff that didn't kill the dragon. It's a transformation of what? The dragon comes out of that cave. That's the personification, if you wish, of whatever is not dealt with, whatever is raw energy. It's that same black hole that you see in the nativity icon that we see. Jesus is born into that black hole, into that darkness, that chaos of what needs to be transformed. And so the dragon, what happens is the dragon is lured out. Now there's another icon, which is the princess, is there. It's maybe 50 years after this one was done. I always keep them together because I love that little princess there. Now the legend itself is one thing. The legend is pointing, like a parable, to the story, the real underlying message, which is the princess standing there as a very thin like thread, but very strong, attached to the horns of the dragon. And she reels the dragon out. She lures it out. And then George, though, is the one who does the action of transformation, the action itself. Now, because he's the actor, she is very still and peaceful. He's on a white horse, and this white horse has forms like an egg with the underside of the dragon. Very important there is the white horse is not afraid, it's not violent, it's circling it like this. And half of George's body is fused into the horse, if you notice that. If you look at it real carefully. And by the way, that egg-like shape there between the dragon here and the horse there above it It's very similar to what Mary is always portrayed on a bed that has that shape. And it's the middle between the heavens, the angels, and the ark, the presence of God, of the upper third of the icon. The lower third is, doubt of Joseph is doubting, he's being tempted, and then there's the washing of the baby. Mary's in the middle. She's in that space that we call the Vesica Pisces. Vesica Pisces means, vesica comes from the word bladder, because it looks like a bladder when it's filled. They used to put wine in bladders, and hang up like that. And it's also called Pisces, which means, of course, fish, and you put a tail on that, and it looks like a fish. All right, so it has gotten from many centuries before Christ, the Pythagoreans, the philosophers of old Greeks, came up with this understanding that we live in two dimensions. We live in the dimension of God, divine, and we live in the dimension of 24/7. But we're not split, even though sometimes we act as though we are. We're really not called to be split. We're called to be one, which the kingdom of God is within. Heaven and earth comes together through the Theotokos, heaven and earth. You see, it's a total openness and availability to the Spirit, having ruminated also all these things in her heart, pondered them, kept in the Greek as well as in the Hebrew, means to guard over, to protect. It's something hidden, and it's like the pearl, the precious pearl. Hide it until you are ready then to expose it. We all need moments and times where we need to nurture the seed, the word, the presence, and the Christ presence. And so this horse could be like the divine Christ consciousness. So it's not George doing the transformation. It is cooperating with the divine consciousness of Christ. So important that we are called to this. We're not called to admire all the saints and swing incense to them and then walk out the door and say, wasn't that a wonderful service? And then go back, and so the same going back to exactly the way we came in. So we're called to leave the services, leave our experience, the transcendent experience, go out into the world and bring this Christ consciousness into our lives. But how can we do this if we don't know ourselves? If we're acting out of our conditionings? I've been through this. I'm still going to, never over. As long as we're on earth, we're still fortunately called to work in the vineyard and to labor and do the pruning and doing the watering. But there's still something that God is asking us. Because remember, we're like a branch on a tree. So I'm connected to my parents, to my siblings, to my grandparents, and I believe that all of this is like the sap in a branch that needs to be purified. At one point, I was ready to give it all up. I thought this was so hard, so difficult. About my 6th year in monastic life. And I had been working in the vineyards with Arabs, and I learned, they chant when they and I learned to do the Jesus prayer. And I said, the Jesus prayer, it just took right over. It prayed by itself, just like the pilgrim. Isn't that wonderful? And I told my spiritual mother about it. She says, oh yes, it's very ordinary. She said, anything you repeat often enough, it will happen. Now, I'm not saying that's, about the pilgrim lived a certain life. that I'm not going to comment on, but as far as what was going on in me and others, she said, oh, that's very common, a lot of the sisters experience this. Does that mean that I'm actually doing the work? No. I was not doing the inner work, but I was beginning to do some serious inner work, which means when I was praying the Jesus prayer, I would not only, when I was working, the Jesus prayer would go on by itself, but when I would be doing the Jesus prayer, starting it out by myself, and we had maybe 4 or 5 hours of silent prayer a day, I go into what we call cyberspace. I go to La La Land. Very peaceful, very comforting, like a little cocoon. But what was happening, I was no longer conscious. I didn't want to be conscious. I wanted to fuse with this divine presence, which I thought was divine presence. But what it was a certain type of calmness and sweetness, but it's not alertness. See? That's the danger of the prayer. Sometimes we do need it, and that's fine when we really have been struggling. But when we do experience it, there might be that moment or time where it's up and out. That means that the transcendent moment. But it'll come with it by surprise. And normally it doesn't stay long. Then we need to come back to awareness. And now. There's some of the delusions, and I went through delusions too, and Father Sofani, when he came to visit us, came and spent 3 hours at table with him. I got an earful of what his experience at Mount Athos was with people who got into delusion, which means you can go into a certain type of unconscious or semi-conscious unawareness, but it's sweet. That's where spiritual help is very important, when one begins to experience those things. And there's also the parapsychological that sometimes also appears and makes one think, other people sometimes would like you to think that you're so special, that put you on a pedestal. And these are the things that are traps. And we're not here in this life to only get to a platonic kind of existence where we don't suffer, we don't feel what we feel. It's not so. We need to be to thyself be true. And you can't be true to yourself if you lose your awareness. Awareness that is taken suddenly by the Spirit of God, it will show itself by its fruits. But so often in the spiritual life, is it sad or not good to have experience? I would not have chosen any other form of life. I've never, certainly not having children, etc., husband. But those are things that are natural. You just see them, you watch it. They're very interesting. Like St. Francis, he also, had those thoughts, and so what did he do? He just stripped himself one day and went and jumped in the snow, and that kind of woke him up, and then he decided to make little tiny snowmen, little children here and here and here, and then a wife, and he says, now feed them. Sometimes we need to really use part of our imagination or other thoughts to somehow see the joke that our minds produce for us. Now, I do want us to meditate again, and so I'm going to stop here, and let's...
Can I ask a quick question? Pardon? Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I just was curious, speaking about the delusions, so how does someone know that they're in that state of mind, or if that's